Hello and welcome to COVID-19 Local Impact on Your TV. I'm Dan Malta from the Your TV studios in Peterborough. We'll start the show today with a quick look at the COVID-19 statistics from the region. Starting with the city and county of Peterborough, Hiawatha and Curve Lake First Nations, 73 confirmed positive cases, more than 4,800 people have been tested, 2 deaths. 61 of those 73 confirmed positive cases have been resolved, and there's currently 1 current local institutional outbreak. In the city of Kawartha Lakes, 137 confirmed cases, 0 probable cases, 43 current high-risk contacts, 9 hospitalizations. 108 of those 137 confirmed have been resolved. 32 confirmed deaths as part of 3 confirmed outbreaks to this point. And in Northumberland County, 14 confirmed cases, 12 current high-risk contacts, 1 hospitalization. 13 of the 14 confirmed cases have been resolved, and 1 confirmed outbreak at this point. Ontario Premier Doug Ford addressed the province today, stating the economy will continue to reopen gradually.
There are many reasons to be optimistic right now. Yesterday, we had 294 new cases, the lowest increase in 6 weeks. Today, we have 308 new cases. But please remember, we're looking for a trend, and these numbers are a good sign we're going in the right direction. And over the past few days, as the trends continue to improve, we have started reopening certain parts of our economy and getting more people back to work. This reopening will continue to happen gradually, but steadily, as soon as it is safe to do so. Starting today, curbside retail is open for business. Hardware stores and garden centers are open. Seasonal businesses and auto dealerships are open. Construction on many sites is restarting. And our provincial parks and conservation reserves are starting to reopen today for limited access. We're reopening things safely and with strict public health measures in place. Today, thousands of people are going back to work. Thousands of people are earning a paycheck again. We have a framework to reopen our economy gradually and safely. We have workplace safety guidelines that will help businesses adapt to our new reality. My friends, we've come a long way, but we still have a long way to go. We're working to get more businesses and services up and running again as safely as we can. And I will have more to say in the coming days about the next steps in the safe reopening of our province. My friends, we have a long road ahead of us. We're at the start of a long journey of recovery and rebuilding. And I want you to know that through it all, your government will stand with you. I will stand with you. I will be there every step of the way with you, because as long as I am Premier, you can rest assured that I will stop at nothing. Your government will stop at nothing to protect you, to support you, and to have your back. We will stand together, shoulder to shoulder. We will get through this together. And together, we will come back stronger and more united than ever. We will come back more determined than ever. We will rebuild what we have lost. Thank you, and God bless the people of Ontario.
Local and national unemployment numbers have increased during the pandemic. Your TV's Mary Tendichat speaks with Greater Peterborough Chamber of Commerce President Stu Harrison, who reacts to Peterborough's unemployment rate for April.
My initial reaction was, somewhat surprised, because I think there's a perception, and I certainly had the perception as well, that there's a ton of people, a significant percentage of the population that is not working. And so I think in the end, I was a little bit surprised at that. But at the same time, I think, obviously there's a lot of people who are not on their jobs, are not in their offices. And so we have tremendous sympathy for the people who are suffering, and there are a lot of them. And hopefully we're starting to see the tail end of this so that people can slowly but surely get back to work.
Any comments then on long term with the 7.7%? Is this something we should be concerned about?
I think there are a lot of people who are concerned about what this is going to look like on the other side. As we emerge, there are issues that are becoming obvious when it comes to starting a business back up again, finding employees, bringing employees back to work. That Mother's Day blip, for example, caused some staffing issues for some people. Opening up retail, kind of, sorta, for curbside pickup means you kind of, sorta have to bring back some of your employees. And so I think it's going to take a while before we really realize what the ultimate impact is going to be, how businesses come out the other side and how different they're going to be. I think it's fairly obvious that some businesses will not survive, but at the same time, no one really knows how many and what that's actually going to look like. I think we all hope that it's a lot less than what we fear.
Members of the United Way for the City of Kawartha Lakes are excited to begin work on their 5-acre garden. Last year they produced 5,000 pounds of food for the community and feel the need for fresh produce will be even greater this year.
Although our office doors are closed, we are open and listening to people. We are operating from off base at our homes, working very hard behind the scenes, working with many partners. I'm in meetings a good part of the day. We've had great success in writing grants so that we know food security issues from our perspective with the garden will be going ahead, and that we can help people who are in vulnerable situations. We are getting calls from Haliburton County as well as the City of Kawartha Lakes. And just recently we received just over $49,000 in New Horizons Senior Program funding from the government. And we're really grateful for that. So we will be giving all of that out to help seniors. Normally we have a touchdown celebration at the end of our campaign. So it's kind of just melted into the next year. Fundraising is going to be tough, not just for us, but for all not-for-profit organizations, unable to have events, many people not in their workplaces, many businesses struggling. And I think this is a time when we have to pull together. We'll just have to monitor the conditions and the generosity of our donors to plan for funding as we go forward. We just launched Local Love in a Global Crisis. It's our new campaign and it began this week. We have united with our other United Ways across the country to help respond to the pandemic, look at emerging needs, look at the basics that people need, and just to be there with mental health 211, places people can go and reach out for help. They have deemed community gardens essential services because we know there are going to be more people needing to access food through food programs, food banks. There will be more people in shelters. So next week we will be working with Fleming College technician and our staff and Crayola to start the season. We have made plans. We have policies and procedures in place for COVID to make sure everybody is safe. We've been very successful in obtaining grants. So there are some grants that will be for some additional programming. So we have been gifted a big cold frame. It's like a hoop house from Fleming College. So that will help us with some early starts for seedlings. Roger Hill has been working away in his greenhouse and has set vegetable seedlings aside for us. And we will be able to put in our water lines this year and hopefully a washing station for the vegetables on site. And we'll also be able to create some kind of a outdoor education platform right in the garden or beside the garden for kids once they could come back in. Last year we grew 5,500 pounds of food, and we supported 10 food banks and 11 agencies for their food programs. And so if we can get a month and a half start, we're hoping to have a bigger yield this year. So that too is very exciting. We will be hiring a co-op student from the Sustainable Ag, again, because the college is closed. They've had logistical things, we've had logistical things. And so that, I think I'm very excited about having that job person like on site. And we've already had several people calling for volunteers, but because of COVID, we have to figure that part out because you can only have 5 people sort of gathering.
Prime Minister Justin Trudeau expands the relief for small businesses to include larger businesses and outlines how that process will work for those who want to utilize the relief funding.
Today, I am announcing the next phase of our support for enterprises that collectively employ millions of Canadians and are experiencing unprecedented losses due to the COVID-19 pandemic. We are expanding the Business Credit Availability Program, put in place to keep small businesses solvent, to mid-sized companies with a greater need for capital. Export Development Canada and the Business Development Bank of Canada will work with private sector lenders to free up access to capital in the tens of millions for Canadian companies in every industry and in all regions across Canada. At the same time, we are establishing a large employer emergency financing facility to provide bridge financing for our largest employers if they are unable to obtain financing through other means. But let me be clear, these are bridge loans, not bailouts. Just as we are finding ways to support small and medium-sized businesses, we'll provide loans to the largest enterprises to help them weather the storm and protect the millions of jobs they provide across Canada. In providing this support, we will be guided by several basic principles. The first is to avoid bankruptcies. Our purpose is to keep large Canadian companies on their feet and protect the millions of jobs they provide. The goal here is not to fix pre-existing insolvencies or restructurings, nor is it to provide low-cost lending to companies that don't need it. Second, we will be fair. Financing will be accessible to every industry sector in a way that is consistent in every province and territory right across Canada. And critically, we will protect workers and hold companies accountable. This is fundamental. Any company that receives this support will be expected to make and keep certain commitments. Those include maintaining jobs and investment, respecting collective agreements and pension obligations, and environmental and climate commitments. In particular, there will be strict limits on dividends, share buybacks, and executive compensation. To stand strong against tax avoidance and tax evasion, we will require companies to share with us their complete financial structure as they apply for funding. With this program, we're taking a bold step. Ideally, private sector lenders are adequate for the needs of large businesses. But in an extraordinary situation when that isn't always enough, we must act to prevent massive harm to Canadian workers and families and the Canadian economy. We will not allow millions of people to lose their livelihoods because of unprecedented events beyond their control. Finally, as we continue to work on plans to reopen, I want to say this. Please let caution and medical advice be your guides. We are all anxious to see life go back to something that looks more like normal. But we're not out of the woods yet, and we cannot squander the sacrifices we've made over the past 2 months. So when in doubt, if you can, stay home. Avoid gatherings. Wash your hands frequently and thoroughly, and maintain 2 meters distance from everyone else. This is how we will keep fellow Canadians who can't stay home and those working on the front lines safe.
As COVID-19 local impact continues on your TV, we'll get an update from the Northumberland region. Welcome back to COVID-19 Local Impact on your TV. I'm Dan Malta. The Cobourg Police Service is celebrating Police Week from May 10th to the 16th. And like many other events during COVID-19, it's going virtual. Your TV's Mark Rockburn speaks with Constable Frank Franchella and Communication Coordinator Lisa Monday to find out more about what's planned for the week.
Police Week's usually in May. It's to celebrate what we do in our community. We actually give thanks back to all our community members, our stakeholders. Normally this time of year, we'd have dozens of kids coming through. We show them exactly what our cars are. I give tours. Unfortunately, this year with the COVID, we're doing it virtual this year. So it's going to be something interesting. And along with Lisa, who's been absolutely amazing, is help organizing this. We're going to bring some special treats to the kids and community members and stakeholders via the internet, via our website and social media.
So what can people expect during Police Week that runs from May 10th to the 16th?
Yeah, so we're looking forward to kicking it off on the Sunday, which is Mother's Day. So please reach out to your mothers safely, virtually or by phone, and say a big thank you to them, first of all. And then we kick off we're going to do some coloring competitions and that kind of thing with some prizes that kind of is in conjunction with our bike safety theme. And then from there, we'll also be, as I said, doing some relevant cyberbullying awareness and safe screen time that maybe would be targeted at the parents to be helpful tips and tricks for them. And then home safety, homes and businesses, at the time who may be closed, or just reminding people, lock your doors. Here's some great tips to keep your home safe during this time. And then following on these partnership features, which I think are really important to highlight some of the services and the partnerships that we do have in the community and work really hard to maintain. And those would include everything from MHeart with Northumberland Hills Hospital, Rebound we hope to highlight, and Cornerstone, which has become very important at this time that people might be isolated. So we're going to try and keep some fun things in, which I'll let Frank tell you about the very last one that we're going to be featuring.
Thank you. Like going through everything, we want everything to be educational, as well as we're going to add some fun to it. And at the end of the week, I believe on the 15th, you'll have to tune in to our Facebook page and our social media. I believe we're going to be live, and yours truly, along with his two fabulous partners, Chip and Chase, are going to be reading this story to the kids of the community and whoever's watching. So that's going to be one of the fun highlights that we're going to bring. I'm not going to tell you the story. You'll have to tune in to find out. Other than that, for the week, it's going to be fun, educational, and we're looking forward to it.
Where can people find out all the information that's going to happen for the whole entire week?
I can take this one. For more information, you want to visit our website. That's cobourgpoliceservice.com. And also follow us on Facebook, and we encourage parents to join in with their children to the fun stuff aimed at them, and everyone to join us there on Facebook. We'll be sharing on other platforms as well, but Facebook will be the main one, as you heard, with Constable Franchella ending the week.
During COVID-19, the federal government has announced funding for individuals, businesses, and organizations. This will cause massive debts that will take years to pay down. Northumberland Peterborough South MP Philip Lawrence thinks this is good debt. However, he takes issue with the Trudeau government's spending over the last 5 years.
I think a lot of this debt is good debt and money that had to be spent. Now, the money preceding this, right, for 5 years, we went into $100 billion of deficit spending. So we could be $100 billion better to the good in order to pay this off. But we're right now at a projection of $252 billion, the Parliamentary Budget Office says, and that's without some announcements that are almost certain to come. Like the bailout of, I would assume that there'll be an announcement of a bailout for the airline industry and other large industries like that. So that could easily translate into $500 billion deficit. And so the government's going to have to be faced with some difficult choices to go ahead, going ahead. And so they're going to have to, like I said, the best thing we can do is get our economy rolling, put in place the best environment we can for our business owners, because ultimately, if we can generate more revenue, we can start to pay off this debt, and so that my children and even my grandchildren are not crippled by the amount of debt that they have to pay.
You talk about bailout, and I know that the airline industry is looking for some relief. Where do we draw the line as to where we go with bailout money? Because I know that the CFL has approached the federal government as well, looking for $150 million to help them. As we stated, airline, where do we draw the line as to who should get bailed out and who shouldn't get bailed out?
So just as a conservative, my predisposition is to have people rely on themselves, and companies, especially large companies, rely on themselves going forward. And so we'll have to see what is introduced. But there are some business industries that were actually doing quite well. Like Air Canada certainly historically had their challenges, but they were actually running quite efficiently and doing quite well as a company, and I might say quite well managed as a company. And being hit by a pandemic, we shouldn't just wipe that airline out because of a once in a generation. So we'll have to see what would be introduced. Generally, as a conservative, I'm against bailouts, especially corporate welfare. But you can't look at this in a normal lens. I think it's fair to say.
You can watch more from that clip on Update from the Hill with MP Philip Lawrence in the Northumberland viewing region on Channel 700. Visit our website, yourtv.tv, for airtimes and dates. As provinces across the country start taking steps to reopen the economy, one Canadian doctor working on research in the U.S. is urging officials to carefully consider this process. Your TV Muskoka's James Bowler speaks with Dr. Mark Cameron, an immunologist from Case Western Reserve University in Cleveland, Ohio, who directly dealt with the SARS epidemic in Toronto nearly 2 decades ago. Dr. Cameron draws a comparison between the second wave of the Spanish flu and what could be coming in a second wave of COVID-19.
We are due for a second wave this fall of COVID-19, and that's because there are many people who are asymptomatic with COVID-19, meaning there are people that are infected with the virus that don't know they are infected. Back in 1918, during the Spanish flu, the backdrop of that pandemic was travel due to World War I. So the virus was spreading worldwide on the backs of travel and on the backs of a period of time where obviously testing and tracing of infections around the world were at its infancy. However, at the time, doctors knew to wear masks, to not congregate in large numbers of people. They knew the basics of blocking transmission even at that time. And those measures we're using also with COVID-19, and they are working. Social distancing, wearing face coverings in public. There are a lot in common between that era and now. Obviously, there's better medical approaches. Obviously, we have made very quick gains on rolling out vaccines, at least to the first phase of human trials. But remember, that was H1N1 influenza that caused Spanish flu. We had an H1N1 influenza swine flu in 2009 that emerged in the late spring and summer at North America and spread worldwide. Now, that was part of a modern era of tracking and tracing and treatment. And because it was influenza, and there is a engine every year that produces a different influenza vaccine, we had a vaccine for H1N1 swine flu by the next fall, which was coordinate with a second wave of H1N1 swine flu in North America. And the vaccine availability at the same time helped us break the chain and prevent third and fourth waves largely from occurring. The H1N1 swine flu epidemic lasted about 20 months in North America and around the world. Now, if we look at COVID-19, it is another virus that has spread worldwide. It has a lot of foothold at various countries around the world. And it's spreading very easily because it either produces a mild illness in most people, or it's asymptomatic. People don't know they're infected as well. So people are pretty sure that there will be another wave in the fall, if not right now, if we release our precautions too early. And that's something we have to plan for and deal with. What we need to do is make sure there's enough time for the science to catch up here, either with new treatments to treat patients that have severe forms of COVID-19, or to ready the vaccine in time to break the chain outside of it running wild amongst us.
Some unfortunate news for soccer players. Ontario Soccer announced today all sanctioned in-person soccer events and activities for the month of June have been canceled or postponed, meaning soccer fields in the area will remain unused for at least another month. Parking enforcement in the 2-hour on-street spaces had been paused by the city at the start of the COVID-19 pandemic. It's being resumed in Peterborough to ensure spaces are available for shoppers, but parking will remain free. Any change put into pay and display parking machines and parking meters during the free period will be donated to Kawartha Food Share. Free parking for on-street parking and surface lots in the central area will continue for now as a temporary measure to prevent the spread of the COVID-19 virus. That's the show today. For Your TV, I'm Dan Malta.